everybody. I'm Lisa Brennan.
And I'm Justin Trice.
Welcome to Crime of the Arts, a true crime podcast that peeks behind the curtain to shine a light on the dark and untold truths of the creative arts.
From film set mysteries to celebrity murders and art heists, these two theater nerds will usher you into the unknown. Unknown.
This week, I'm going to tell you the story of a mysterious murder on Skid Row.
Ooh, and this week...
There's probably lots of murders.
I was going to say, there's quite a few, and I feel like there's even songs dedicated to that. But this week, I'm going to talk to you about Harvey Weinstein.
Ugh.
I'm just going to leave it at that.
Weinstein.
I know.
Enough said. Okay, do you want to go first? You want me to go first?
What's the order? Do I need to... what was yesterday's number?
I feel like it's just out the window.
Yeah, it's out the window. I could go first really quick then.
Okay.
All right, folks. So gonna be talking to you today about Harvey Weinstein. Some of y'all know him for different reasons. We're gonna get into that. Most of you probably know him as the movie producer. Ironically enough, I was in a hotel room the other day and I saw a trailer for a brand new movie and I was like, this looks interesting. It has a lot of people in it that I like. And it's about freaking Harvey Weinstein. For the record, I wrote this script like 2 to 3 weeks ago. And now there's a movie under the radar, like going for Oscar season here. And I'm like, all right. So
yeah, it looks really good.
Yeah.
It looks really good. I don't go to the movies, but this one I might go for.
Yeah. No, I'm definitely going to check it out.
I don't find myself in the movie theaters too often. And I love how now I'm like spoiled rotten. I'm like, they don't have recliner seats. I'm not fucking going.
Yes, they don't have recliner seats. Sometimes I'm bougie enough to where I'm like, they don't offer beer in here as well. Then I'm...
Well, you know what? Listen, I can watch so many things from the comfortability of my home and couch with all of my shit here. So you really have to compete. You know, you have to have something I don't have. The movie theater buttered popcorn. I don't have that at home like that.
Yeah.
Comfy couch. I'm not going to sit in a fucking hard seat straight up next to strangers. Forget it.
So we're talking about movies now. And speaking of which, Harvey Weinstein, for those who didn't know, he was a film producer, a very big fucking film producer that had co-founded. He essentially was the co-founder of an entertainment company, which was Miramax. And then way back when,
which is like enormous.
Exactly, it's enormous. Like you always see that whatever the sound effect is and a little phasing of the words Miramax. And he was practically in charge of that back in the 80s and all of this. And then eventually he left to found his own company with his brother, basically, which was called the Weinstein Company. You've also seen that in several places as well.
Now that you say that, yeah. So, I can see it in my head.
I mean, this guy was Hollywood in terms of producers. And we're going to get into a little bit of his background and just some of you are probably like, oh, I know where this is going. For those of you that don't, we're going to take you there. We're going to take you to a place.
Well, first of all, have you been living under a rock?
Have you been living under a rock?
Get out from under that rock you're under. You don't know who Harvey Weinstein is.
If you've been living under a rock, well, shame on you. But we're here now to lift the rock, to give you some light in that dark place.
Hey,
see what I did there?
I see you. Perfect.
So I'm going to give you a little background first, as usual. Harvey Weinstein was born on March 19th, 1952 in the Flushing neighborhood of Queens. Hey, Queens, New York.
Hey.
To a Jewish family of Polish descent. His father, Max, was a diamond cutter, while his mother, Miriam, was a stay-at-home mom that primarily took care of his family. His younger brother, Bob. Cutter. Yeah, diamond cutter. Like, how crazy is that? Like,
there's jobs for everything.
There is. And I'm sure back then, like, that was a very brutal job and wasn't making much like for it, you know?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
But yeah, his mom was a stay-at-home mom and took care of him. And his younger brother, Bob, was born 2 years after him. And they grew up together in a housing co-op called Alechester in New York. He graduated.
Can't you just hear his mom being like, Harvey, Bobby, get in here.
Get in here.
Dinner time.
Dinner time. Dinner time. He graduated high school from John Brown High School in Flushing before attending SUNY Buffalo for his college education. So he went upstate.
Oh.
But yeah. He first got his start in entertainment when he started an independent company with his brother and Corky Burger called Harvey and Corky Productions that produced rock concerts in Buffalo through the 70s. And that's an interesting thing because, like, when I was first looking into this, I'm like, I would not have known this man from the jump was starting off as a producer, but he in a rock venue upstate. Like, Buffalo is upstate, folks. For you non-New Yorkers, Buffalo is in New York. We don't consider it New York. It's a whole thing if you're a New Yorker.
Oh, God. You just laying it out.
I have to.
Then be fighting words, Justin. So, I mean, okay, well, people don't even necessarily know what upstate
exactly.
means.
They don't know what.
So if you're not from New York, you have Long Island, where we're from. And on that island is Queens and, the Brooklyn and Long Island, Nassau, Suffolk counties. Yeah. And then you have Manhattan Island. And then you have the rest of upstate New York, which is like a majority of the city that somehow we don't consider New York.
And it's all a unique thing because like Queens and Brooklyn, geographically, they are on Long Island. But because of their location and just like the diversity, it's a different atmosphere. They consider that like, it's part of the 5 boroughs. It's a
borough.
It's a whole thing there. But
it's part of the fish.
When I first moved to Long Island and someone hit me with, well, Queens was on Long Island. So really, you've been on Long Island this whole time. I've been over here like, no. But
Listen, you think that Queens is so cool.
It is.
But you were on Long Island anyway.
No. But yes. So this man was upstate, which is like, Buffalo in perspective is like 8 hours away from
at least it might as well be fucking Virginia.
Yeah, it might as
it's just as far.
Yeah, he was 8 hours away from Manhattan basically at a young age, like with his friends and his brother, like, hey, let's put together this company. Let's start fucking producing for music for rock bands. Like that's pretty wild in itself.
Yeah, I mean, and Buffalo is pretty known for its music scene.
Yeah. So
that's cool. I know people who went to SUNY Buffalo.
Yeah, same here. It's a good school. But yeah, during that period, he brought many prominent musicians of that era to Buffalo, such as The Who, Frank Sinatra. He pulled in the Rolling Stones through his production group. Even during his early days, many of his closest friends noticed that he behaved very aggressively. Save that for later.
Towards women, let me guess.
I mean, that's not a lie, but right now, he behaved very aggressively when dealing with people in both his personal and business life. You take that for what you will. Apparently, this was in part of a result of his upbringing, where it was said that his mother would often yell at him and quote unquote ostracize him about his weight. Because if you've seen Harvey Weinstein, he's a bigger gentleman.
He's a big dude.
He's a big dude. At the end of the 70s, he used all that money he made from his promotion business to start an independent film distribution company called Miramax with his brother. They decided to name the company in honor of their parents by combining their names, Miriam and Max.
Oh, that's kind of nice.
That was a nice.
Too bad he's a piece of shit.
No, I was like, it's such a nice tribute for an asshole.
Oh, it's a nice gesture.
Whatever.
For a douchebag.
I think Russell Crowe said it best in 3:10 to Yuma. He's like, even bad guys love their mother. So we're gonna leave that there. But the first few releases were mostly films centered around music and concerts, such as like Paul McCartney's concert film Rock Show, which was in 1980. The following year, in 1981, they released their first feature film called The Burning, which was a slasher film about a camp counselor who was burned horribly because of a prank, and he came back to seek revenge, wreaking havoc at another summer camp several years later. I'm just going to interject real quick and say,
you've seen this movie.
Surprisingly, I have not seen this movie. But B, you fucking rest assured, Lisa, I will track this movie down now because that premise actually sounds
like it's right up your alley.
It's perfect. And this was like in the beginning of, this was 1980 itself. So, we had Friday the 13th and all this stuff later on.
Justin, you just love slasher movies.
I do. I mean, I love all horror in general, but as I was reading that, I just heard some like vengeful music and pictured like this groundskeeper horribly burnt from this prank coming back to get them. And now I'm interested. So
yeah, I'm totally out. So you knock yourself out and you talk about it on another episode. Tell me all about it.
I'll let you know how it goes. So yeah, they did that as their first feature film, like that was non-musical. You're good. And even during the early days of Miramax, Weinstein was alleged to have attempted to coerce some of his employees and actresses that starred in his movies into performing sexual acts for him in exchange for advancement in the organization of their careers in show business.
For those not on the Patreon, I'm blinking 100 times a second because I can't even contain myself.
And this is the thing. This is just the beginning, and I'm already giving you folks like he has a fucking pattern from the start, which, you know,
no doubt.
I don't know. And some of you might be listening and you're like, Justin and Lisa, you guys are always just so critical to these people. But no, when you hear the rest of the story, you'll understand. There's no leeway on this, but
there certainly isn't. And listen, you come here because we're critical.
Yeah, you come here because we're critical and cynical sometimes, and sometimes just absurd. You're here for all of those good things and more.
Yeah, so. I mean, this is what we have to offer. Most of the time we're calling people out on their shit.
Exactly. So here it goes. But
here's the shit.
You know, Lisa's mentioned before in previous stories, particularly about why am I drawing a blank? Chicago, the essence of Chicago, what that story was really about. We discussed this, but no, the other story. You're the producers. No, what was the other story? The producers, the girls. Recently, you did
the MGM.
Thank you. I was about to say Wizard of Oz, and I'm like, it's not Wizard of Oz. But as Lisa has pointed out previously in her MGM story, and other times we have touched on it too. You know, that casting couch, that thing. That unfortunately seemed to be a thing.
It's a real thing.
Where men are using their power to do these things. This touches on it as well. You see this theme every now and again with some of our stories. It's just the way it is, unfortunately. Like, we have to talk about it because it's there. And it's just too prominent.
let's call it what it is exactly. It is men in power, impressing their power upon women in order for these women to gain any kind of access to stardom or roles or anything that they should be deserving of on their own right and character and talent. But these men like shits like Harvey Weinstein uses his power to gain sexual favors, whatever he wants to think they are in his head. However he wants to
justify the bullshit. Yeah.
Right. To, help these women get along. But really all he wants to do is just be creep show and assault them.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, women have been seeing this for decades and decades in Hollywood and in the entertainment industry. And then you have the Me Too movement, which kind of, opened a floodgate.
Absolutely.
It's not like this was something that people didn't know about. They knew about it. It was just something that became unacceptable at some point.
Right.
Where before people were just looking the other way.
Well, exactly. It was that people might have been looking the other way, but also a lot of people were scared because we've seen in the entertainment industry, like, shit. I mean, again, your story with MGM was crazy, but even in more modern times, like, we've seen other powerful producers be called out on shit. And like, for instance, I'm gonna just, because what I'm going to say now is I'm saying it now because it's not enough to be a full episode of something, but I'm going to just, again, like Brendan Fraser's comeback. Everybody's like, Brendan Fraser's making a comeback. But the whole reason he was like blacklisted and disappeared is because he spoke out years ago that a particular producer had, tried to sexually assault him. He was very vocal on that. That ended his whole fucking career. The rest of the entertainment industry still went on like it was normal. They did not back this.
Well, and especially for men, it's a strange thing, right? You have the Kevin Spacey, Anthony Rapp thing where, that's a story I think that we should cover.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But like, because it's two men, that hasn't crossed over into being something that people take seriously yet.
Exactly. It's like this weird divide. And then, emails leaked out and things happened, and the public, because it now leaked out during the Me Too movement, the public finally got to see these things for Brendan Fraser, and bam, that person's gone. He's making a comeback. But again, look, that happened to him decades ago. And this is just now becoming, we're finally making people take accountability. Yeah.
Yeah. Ruined his career, essentially, And then you got people like Harvey Weinstein. His hand was in everything. So he had so much room to just take.
And that's the thing. Some of you are probably thinking like, well, his hand wasn't in everything, but you have to think about it. Miramax became the juggernaut that it became. And it didn't just have the movies. It happened to have the movies that started creating the starlets. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is the catch. So, yeah, even back then, and we're talking about in the 80s, he was already trying to pull this, essentially.
That's so crazy.
But yeah, many of his victims from that time who came forward to share their experiences had shared eerily similar stories where they were invited to meet Weinstein alone at a hotel or private casting room and were greeted by Weinstein, who also appeared in a robe or towel. He would then proceed to expose himself to them and ask for a massage, often as a form of quid pro quo for something else, you know. Dirty wink, wink. It's fucking terrible.
Oh, and just the whole, there's like a system built around this, right? So he's got people that he puts in these scenarios. Hey, go get so-and-so, tell her to come here. And that person knows damn fucking well what's happening.
Yep.
And they're too scared to say anything, or they're in on it, or whatever the scenario is. It's just like really heinous. I feel like it's so calculated, and there's so many people brought into everything he did that it's like another level of hell.
It's fucking sickening. So like he would then proceed to expose himself to them and ask for a massage. Like I said, while some of the women refused his advances, others gave into his request in hopes of him opening up some doors for them as a person in a position of power to help benefit their careers. And this was even back in the 80s. This was like a thing with him. Yeah. So over the next few decades, Miramax continued to grow and find success in the film industry. All the while, Weinstein continued his predatory behavior behind the scenes. In 1993, the company was purchased by Disney for $40 million, which is another thing. I mean, back in the day, Disney had their hand in everything, like Buena Vista, Miramax. But yes,
the truth is the industry is this big.
Yeah,
it's an inch wide, you know, so everybody owns everything already.
Correct.
I swear to you, there's some conglomerate somewhere who we don't even know is pulling the strings on every platform.
Yeah.
Every platform.
No,
it's amazing. You don't even realize it until you go, like, for example, on like Paramount Plus, and you're like, oh, MTV, Nickelodeon, CBS. You have all of these major networks, and they're all the same fucking company.
Yep.
And you have no idea. It's crazy.
It's wild. So that's just what it is right there. And at the time that purchase, that them buying him for 40 mil, Disney, that was making Weinstein one of the most powerful men in film history, because this was back in 93.
Did they keep him on?
Yeah, they kept him on. They own the company.
What are some of the movies that Miramax has put out?
I was about to start listing some from you. Don't worry.
All right.
And the company continued to release blockbuster films such as, I don't know, Pulp Fiction, Clerks, Chicago, Shakespeare in Love. That's just a few
stunners,
dozens
all of them.
upon dozens. As they became more well-known, they started to attract more big-name movie talents to appear in their movies, such as John Travolta, Uma Thurman, Gwyneth Paltrow, as I discussed in those films, and were able to bring on more talented directors and producers to work on those movies behind the scenes, like Quentin Tarantino, Robert Rodriguez, Steven Soderbergh. All these renowned directors, individuals, talented actors and actresses in the film industry started to become more aware of Weinstein's actions behind the scenes, but none of them really had the courage to come forward because of his stature in the industry at the time, which is what Lisa and I were just saying. It's like they didn't want to ruffle feathers. They were worried about their careers,
their own well-being. Yeah. It's that Hollywood idea of eat or be eaten. You know, so you just kind of let people fend for themselves, and it's horrible.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
So after decades of success through Miramax, the Weinstein brothers decided to leave the company in 2005 to start another film organization called the Weinstein Company, which you have all seen that symbol as well. They brought along some of their media executives they worked with at Miramax, who helped successfully run their production department for the last decade. Throughout the next decade, early 2000s, folks, they released their fair share of blockbuster movies. They had The King's Speech, Django Unchained, Silver Lining Playbook, and many, many more. And this is the thing, when we're naming all these movies,
wow,
Harvey Weinstein's company had not just hits, but I mean, all these hits were like always at the Oscars.
Award-winning.
They were all.
Yeah.
So the company continued to operate up until 2018 when it declared.
Hold on. Look at the cast of just those movies. Bradley Cooper, Jennifer Lawrence, Leonardo DiCaprio, Jamie Foxx,
Samuel Jackson, Colin Firth.
These are like the major heads in the movie industry in the 2000s. Oh my God.
And just think about that. That company only existed from 2005 to 2018, and it churned out dozens upon dozens of fucking hits. Like,
well, it comes along with the clout his name had.
Yeah.
You know, he had made a name for himself. And everyone just took the good and left the bad.
Yeah.
And just kept going because it was better for their careers to do that.
Ridiculous, but yeah.
I'm mad already.
She's seething, folks. For those of you who aren't on Patreon, she's seething. But yeah, company, quote unquote, declared bankruptcy in 2018. You know, in the wake, I'll say, of Weinstein's sexual abuse scandal that was starting to come to light. So rumblings, if you will, about Weinstein's misbehavior as a womanizer have been circulating throughout the industry for decades. Fucking decades, folks.
Well, and then the concept of the term womanizer,
made me want to throw up.
It makes it seem less predatory, and it's more like a bro thing.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh, he just fucks around with a lot of girls, rather than he's fucking sexually assaulting people.
And he's manipulating his power to get that. So, but yeah, you saw my face when I was like, womanizer. Okay. But just, bullshit. It'd been that whole thing had been circulating for decades, but it wasn't until the 2010s. Oh, look at that. 2010s. We're in 2022 going on 2023. We're talking about the roaring 2010s. It wasn't until the 2010s that some of his victims started to step forward to report their unpleasant interactions with him.
Unpleasant.
That's an understatement of a lifetime, folks. Not for nothing. The way half of the articles when I was researching was reading, I'm like, I'm sure he paid quite a bit to lessen the blow with the words, but it's still.
Isn't that incredible? It's incredible what the media is capable of doing.
Yeah.
They refer to him as a womanizer. What did you say? What was the term?
Unpleasant interactions.
Experiences. Yeah. Listen, I had an unpleasant experience with a fucking front office woman at a doctor's office today. That's an unpleasant experience. This is quite different. Oh my goodness.
So in 2015, a report from the New York Times surfaced about Weinstein being questioned by the NYPD for inappropriately touching 22-year-old Italian model Ambra Gutierrez. Although she barely spoke any English, the police convinced her to wear a wire a day after she filed her report. And now if the cops are telling you wear the wire, now they already had some dirt on this motherfucker, but it was probably suppressed every single time. It's probably suppressed.
Well, they probably didn't have enough. You know, like, I'm sure the murmurings have been going on for as long as all of this has been occurring.
Right.
But it always kind of gets shot down. Don't fuck with Harvey Weinstein.
Exactly. Don't fuck with Harvey.
So they're like, ooh, will you do this?
Yeah.
You poor thing. Barely speak English. Do you have any idea how terrifying this is?
They literally had her do that wire the day after she filed that report. And then they were able to catch Weinstein on tape trying to grope her against her will.
So they put a wire on her and sent her back to him.
Basically.
She's the champion.
Yeah, because I mean, to already suffer through that trauma once of him trying to do something and you going back in.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, too. And, you know, because there was a language barrier. I'm curious to know. Like I said, they stress she didn't speak much English, but it's like, did she fully understand the ramifications that she now might have to deal with this asshole again? It could get a little crazy. That went down. He was trying to grope her against her will. That was all recorded on the wire. The recording was made public, but they were unable to press any charges against him at the time due to lack of evidence. There you go. Lack of evidence. I mean, it is just a wire audio. We don't know the yeah. Air quotes, people. I'm doing air quotes, so please don't think I'm justifying this.
No, we're not on his side.
Yeah, this is why you guys need to get up on the Patreon. You can actually see everything happening among other stuff. But in 2017, there were several. It was like a series of allegations that came out against him, claiming that he had been sexually harassing women for over 3 decades and had to pay multiple different settlements to actresses, female production assistants, and employees of his companies to keep those incidents under wraps, non-disclosure. So an expose in the New Yorker, which, folks, by the way, I saw a trailer the other day. It's called She Said. That film focuses on, the journalist from the New Yorker. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yes, an expose in the New Yorker that came out in October of that year supported these claims by sharing with the public that Weinstein was known to have sexually harassed 13 different women and raped 3 of them. Yes, I'm going to let you process on that.
Okay.
I'm going to let you process on that.
Those 2 women changed the entire face of the entertainment industry.
Oh, completely. They flipped it upside down.
By getting these women to come forward. It's incredible. You don't realize sometimes when you're in the middle of something, how it's going to affect the whole world.
Exactly.
Right. These aren't this isn't, some journalists that are all over television and they're trying to make big waves all the time. These are 2 women who worked their asses off and they shook the entire
They
world.
risked their entire livelihood to do that.
Well, literally their lives.
Yeah, their lives. Yeah.
I cannot wait to see this movie.
Yeah. I'm going to definitely check it out.
I wonder if they wrote books or anything about their experience and all of this. I should look into that.
Definitely check that out. You might find a book or 2. Interesting. But yeah, when the news initially broke that information, more and more women started to come forward to say that they had also had a similar experience with him. And in November, a group led by Italian actress Asia Argento released a list with over 100 alleged instances of Weinstein committing some form of sexual abuse towards women, the women accusing him. And I mean,
a list of 100.
100 instances.
Wow.
Yeah. And, let's not forget, later on, some very top celebrities have come out and told their stories about
I'm getting chills.
Yeah, how he tried to make advances or he made a joke or things like that. Because I remember
Jennifer Lawrence is one of them.
Jennifer Lawrence spoke about it. I remember Salma Hayek spoke about it, and then
wasn't it Black Widow? What's her name?
Scarlett Johansson. And then I'm messing up names now. Gone Girl. What's her name? Is it Rose Pikeman?
Nope, I don't got it.
Okay. There were several people that started to come out and express he either joked in an inappropriate manner or he was hinting at something or he flat out was like, I can, ruin your career, blah, blah, blah.
Well, let's look at Jennifer Lawrence for a second. What was her big claim to fame?
Hunger Games.
Was it Hunger Games? Okay. Did they produce Hunger Games? Who produced Hunger Games?
Let's take a look real quick. We're going to take a quick break here.
Right. Because then Silver Line
was through his company. That was the Weinstein Brothers company. So let's see who.
Lionsgate.
Yeah. Lionsgate produced that, but she started working with him for Silver Lining Playbook. That's when she had dealt with him.
Crazy. I was just wondering if he was like the catalyst to her stardom, but no, she didn't.
Oh yeah, no. Her catalyst was that movie Winter Bones that put her on the map, and then.
Oh yeah, she was so young in that movie.
Mm-hmm. I don't know why my phone was ringing. Now it's on Do Not Disturb. Okay. I was like, what is going on here? We're recording, damn it. Don't call me. So you guys, for those of you who listen and you want to see more, you should definitely check out online of that released list of all the instances because it's all there. It's all pretty fucking wild. And again, it was all from it was 100 instances of him committing some form of sexual abuse towards the women accusing him, whether it's sexual harassment or just leveraging, or again, he did sexually assault some of them.
Inappropriate assault, right?
Weinstein responded to those allegations by issuing, you guessed it, a public statement apologizing for his actions and saying that he was taking a sabbatical from his company to undergo therapy for the issues he had in his head. He went on to bullshit. My PR team was like, you got to get the fuck out the spotlight right now, Harvey. Harv, you're not winning this. Get out of there.
Well, like, I just don't understand. Like, can you imagine being his PR and being like, a list of 100, Harvey? 100. Like, what are we going to do with you?
Yeah, what are we going to do?
Go in the fucking closet. What are we going to do?
And then you got like his whole...
And your apology is not worth fuck all.
He's got a whole board of people and they're like, all right, well, we'll do the apology. That's standard. But no, that's not going to be enough. People need accountability. Throw therapy in there. We'll take him to fucking rich man's club therapy.
He's going to fix himself.
He's going to fix himself.
He's aware.
But you know, the thing about all of that too is
that motherfucker's always been aware.
Yeah, he's always been aware. And you know, if you're gonna play the part now, I have to go to therapy, I have to do all these things. You gotta really play that part. Anytime I saw this motherfucker during the accusations, it looked like he just didn't give a fuck.
He sure
that man did not care. So it's hard to believe that he was reforming. But that's my 2 cents there. He went on to say that he was brought up in a time period. See, this is the thing.
Nope, gonna flip the desk. Gonna flip it.
Here's my thing, and this is what I said. The man had he gave no fucks. But my thing is, it was the classic scenario, and we've seen this. You've all seen this with us. You've been on this journey of crime of the arts with us now for like 23, 24 episodes and counting, and you've seen it all the time. It's the whole, my PR told me to do, quote unquote, what the right thing is to boost my image back. But then
whether or not that's real or
not. But then I continue to keep talking and I put my foot in my mouth and I destroy everything. Every fucking thing. Like he might have got away with it, but Harvey being Harv,
he's like, I need to say my own piece. This is a
tendency with a lot of men who are in power.
Egotistical men.
Or I hate to say it, a lot of men who, their upbringing, their insecurities, whatever that is, a lot of them, I call it the fake alpha syndrome, because a lot of motherfuckers walk around here talking, and they publicly say it, and I cringe every time. As a dude, I hate the shit when motherfuckers are constantly talking about, I'm an alpha or I'm a leader. And Harvey Weinstein was that dude. He's like, I'm a leader. I built all of this. I can do this. I can do that. And you're like,
the lady doth protest.
Yeah, we get it. You were an overweight kid. You had some insecurities, and now that you have the power, you're forcing it down people's throats because you can, and it's the only way to justify what you're doing. But yes, this asshole decided to, it's a game of Texas Hold'em. He already had a great fucking hand. I don't know why he's doing what he's doing here and whatever. But anyway, he went on, folks, to say that he was brought up in a time period where these kinds of acts were more widely accepted by society, and he needed to learn. He needed to learn to adjust to the way the world worked today.
Oh, excuse you.
Times have changed too. And like the way I read that.
And he just didn't keep up on the fact that you shouldn't touch people that don't want to be touched.
The way I just read all of that, you can still find clips of him saying this shit all on the web. And like the way I saw it was just like, it's like, back in my day, we could beat a woman and do all these things.
With a stick, as long as it wasn't thicker than your finger.
It's not my fucking fault that the world moves faster than I can adjust to. Like, here we are. Whoa. So.
Can you imagine the fucking audacity of this man?
Yeah.
To stand up in front of the world and say, you know what? It used to be all right to just smack women's asses on the airplane when they walk past you. So, like, that's what I'm used to. We've been doing it this way for so long. I don't know why I have to change. Essentially, that's what he means.
Yeah, that's essentially what he's saying. And it's like in my mind, I just see all the cameras flashing and him doing the interview. And then he gets to that part and I hear the record skip or scratch on the Victrola. It's like, and everyone's like, whoa, we're going to step back. We're going to step back here.
No, sir.
We're going to step back here and get back to you. Press the fucking charges. Press the charges.
Call the DA. Call the DA.
Oh, so yeah. That really fucked with me.
Audacity. It's the audacity of this man.
Mm-hmm. So his sexual abuse allegations sparked a wave of outrage, justifiably so, across the country. And it helped fuel the Me Too movement that began to pick up momentum as a result of his past behavior. In the wake of all of his allegations, the board of directors of the Weinstein Company decided to fire him and filed for bankruptcy for the following year, in part because of the reputation that followed his name now. And I remember when that went down, and I did feel slightly bad, not for him. I felt bad for
other company and all the people's lives that affects.
Yeah, because it created this huge effect that, I didn't think they were going to go that far with it. Like I expected him to get in trouble and him to be fired from the company. But as a result, every film that was made under them that had not released yet was now shelved. They were not.
Like what? Do you know?
Fuck. I had a list. Hold on one second.
Yeah, I mean, and it's hard because it's like his name is on the company. So how do you? I have
to get back to you on that. But there were several films that year because this was like back in 2017. I think A Star Is Born was affected by that. I think several films were affected to where, as a result, they did not come out. They were shelved. They were coming out like a year or two later because then they had to get a new distributor. They technically can't be under him. They didn't want to give money. They didn't want that money to go back into his pocket.
To him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it sucked because a lot of those things were supposed to be like Oscar contenders for their year, but they eventually came out. So it's like, wow, we don't think about that aspect. But yeah. And it just sucks for, again, every normal person that worked for him. Like it's a production team. So, I mean, it's a studio. All these workers are now out of a job because they worked for this asshole. But yeah, let me try to Google it real quick because I had a separate page.
So it looks like 2018 international distributor, UK only, The Nut Job 2, Leap, Tulip Fever, The Guardian Brothers.
Hold on one second.
It was released. Okay, so The Guardian Brothers was released under a different company, and The Current War. Oh, here we go. The Current War, Polaroid.
Yeah, it was The Current War with Benedict Cumberbatch as Thomas Edison. That got like shelved for like 3 years. The Upside with Kevin Hart and Bryan Cranston, that was shelved for 2 years because of it. They had to get a new distributor.
Wow.
And then Lin-Manuel's In the Heights was in limbo as well. I knew it was something else.
Shit.
And then Suspicion. Oh my gosh. Suspicion Nation, which was about the Trayvon Martin case. That was shelved for a very long time. I don't even know if that had ever came out yet. I have to look into that.
Yeah, I don't know if that's.
But is that your alarm or something? Or is that mine?
Yeah, no, it's yours. I don't hear anything.
Oh, no, I think it's hers. I think it's Peyton. She must be here. Okay. But yeah, that's the thing. So like that went down in 2017. You guys saw In the Heights and it come out to like a couple years ago.
It came out like just
a year and a half ago.
Yeah,
max? Yeah. So a lot more films were affected by that as well. And again, yeah, different distributors had to come in and so yeah, they got rid of him. They filed for bankruptcy. The following year, on May 25th, 2018, Weinstein was arrested and charged with sexual misconduct involving 2 different women. He was released on $1 million bail the very same day under the condition that he surrendered his passports and he wore an ankle monitor that confined him to New York and Connecticut. First off,
how many people get more than one state?
Yes. Yes.
Usually it's like a 10-block perimeter or like your home.
They said, we'll take your passports, but you can have New York and Connecticut. What the fuck? Do you know this man can slip out? Traveling between New York and Connecticut can take you to various other states. He could have slipped out of any of those, but you had an ankle monitor on him that worked, I'm sure.
Like we said, also New York is enormous.
Yeah.
So, you can go all the way to Rochester, 9 hours from New York City.
Yep.
And I mean, you're in the middle of nothing. You can go hide in the fucking woods.
So he was tried in Manhattan Supreme Court in February, I should say, February 2020, where 6 different women came forward to testify against him. And he was found guilty of rape in the 3rd degree and criminal sexual act in the 1st degree. Was
Rose McGowan one of the people who came out against him?
Yeah, she was another one that came out later against him as well. He was sentenced to 23 years in prison, starting out in the infirmary unit of Rikers Island due to his poor health at the time of the trial, before being transferred to Wind Correctional Facility in Alden, New York, which is located just east of Buffalo, where he got his start from entertainment. Yeah, calling bullshit. He was like, I'm not staying at Rikers Island. He knew what was in store for him out there. Yeah.
So let's unpack that for a second.
Yeah, definitely.
He walked into those courtrooms with a walker, in a wheelchair.
Yeah, remember
cane, playing I'm a brittle old man.
These trials, these accusations have crippled my health.
Right. He and it makes him look like unthreatening, and it's amazing how theatrical court is.
Mm-hmm.
You have what's her face? Casey Anthony. They dressed her down,
mm-hmm.
right? And now Harvey Weinstein, they were like, look like a brittle old man. The Golden State Killer did the same thing. He was in his jail cell. I was just listening to something the other day about how he was in his jail cell acting like he couldn't even get up to go to the bathroom. But then after they convicted him of murder, he was climbing the fucking the walls, getting shit off the ceiling and stuff. It's just all an act, and they just keep it up 24/7. So he ends up in the infirmary at Rikers, because that's probably better than being in the general public. And oh my God, there's so much manipulation.
And then he got to go again to Wind Correctional Facility in Alden, New York, which is located just east of Buffalo, where he got his start in entertainment. So they're going to treat him well up there. It's going to be an empty jail, and they're going to treat him well. But
yep. And how does he get what he wants? Of all the jails in New York, why is it the one outside of Buffalo? You know what I mean?
Yep.
Crazy. You got families who have people in prison for whatever reason, doesn't even matter, but they're shipped across the whole country, so you can't even be with your family.
Exactly.
And then this asshole gets to pick and choose, and he's in Buffalo, sitting cushy probably.
Mm-hmm. Well, he's now also facing a separate set of charges from Los Angeles County District Attorney, because remember, I was telling you, basically Supreme Court, all of that went down within New York. That trial was specifically New York. Those 6 women that came up, that was specifically New York incidents. Again, we told you there's dozens upon dozens of women where stuff has happened, and they're all starting to come out. But a lot of them now, what happened is they only got them. And again, it's bullshit. They only got him for 23 years. I don't even think they got him for all 6 of those women. I believe it was 2 or 3. But the thing is, now we're going to try to get more time on there. So now
is he eligible for parole in his 23 years?
Not at the moment. I mean, not at the moment. Okay, they haven't listed that, because what happened is that trial ended, and now he's facing a separate set of charges from the LA County District Attorney for raping a woman and sexually assaulting another woman over a 2-day period in 2013. He was
a 2-day period.
Correct. He was formally indicted on 11 counts of sexual. He was formally indicted on 11 counts of sexual assault in Los Angeles County, and was extradited to California to face those charges.
Sucker.
His trial began for that literally just last month. October 10th, 2022 is when that trial began. And it's still.
I had no idea.
Exactly.
It's so not mainstream media.
Exactly.
Holy shit.
It slept under the rug. We all knew that trial was coming, So
I can't believe that. That's
again,
crazy.
His New York trial was February 2020. This LA, October 10th, 2022. And again, this is only for a few people, not for every single person he's affected. Mm-hmm. And that trial is still ongoing right now. I can't even tell you, because right now, it is so hush, but I'm looking into it. It's not even saying what his potential charges could be if he is found guilty. And the way they're treating this, wouldn't be surprised if this is swept under the rug, or, you know, if they pull the whole, here's an additional 12 years, but we're going to say 5 were served on that 12. So you still only have 20 something left.
Concurrently with blah, blah, blah. So it's not worth a fuck. Well, we're going to have to keep an eye on that.
Yeah.
Now I'm real curious.
So yeah, that, we're going to have to do a follow-up at some point on that, even if it's like a quick 5-minute video of us talking about it. But it's still ongoing to this day. Although they were able to put Weinstein behind bars, unfortunately, there may still be many other powerful figures in the industry that have gotten away with doing something similar, or even still continuing to do those acts today. Like, this is fucking crazy.
This is an epidemic.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a part of the culture, which is hard to change.
Yeah.
It's hard to change culture. You know, it's crazy. And like we said earlier, like, women have come forward and said they've been sexually assaulted. But when men come forward and say they've been sexually assaulted, like the Michael Jackson scenario, like Anthony Rapp, you know, there's this additional stigma that sits upon that people don't believe that it's true. Which, if it's true for women, why wouldn't it be true for men?
Exactly.
So yeah, we have a long way to go. So women, I'm sure, are still being assaulted in whatever way. I mean, in my own workplace, I've experienced sexual harassment. I mean, it's part of everyday life, right? For women, men too, probably. I mean, just my own experience, but you know, you work in the public. I'm sure that there's scenarios that you could find yourself in that are inappropriate.
Oh, for sure. But even, I mean, real talk, even for acting, like, there has definitely been a few.
Still happens on a small scale.
Yeah, it happens on a small scale. And there have definitely been a few incidences when I was a younger lad where I was like, in retrospect, I was like, okay, this was kind of inappropriate. And sometimes they're testing you. It's like a gauge to see if you catch on, or if you're going to follow it. Yeah, it's really fucked up. But
it's like they're testing how far they can push you. Are you one of those people who's gonna fall prey to it, or are you gonna be one of those people who stands up and calls them out? You know, they feel in the waters. It's horrible. It's fucking crazy.
Fucking terrible.
And there's no other industry really that really works in. You know, like, I feel like women in an office environment, or, I mean, it occurs, but it's far less. What am I trying to say? Like, people talk about it more,
right,
in that environment, but somehow in the entertainment industry, it's okay to sexualize, you know, 15-year-old Britney Spears, and it's okay to do all these things. It's just sex sells, and it's like part of the business, but it's not part of any other business.
It's true. It's the dynamic there is just wild. Bananas.
Was that your closer? Was that your?
That's all I got on that, because you know, lately a lot of my stories have been very. I
heard your closer. I heard it there.
Okay.
Okay. So my story is. This is not a feel-good episode, folks. None of these are that funny. I don't know why we call this a comedy podcast.
Well, I get exactly. Hey, I said that in the beginning. I said that too to Lisa. I was like, why is this a comedy podcast? But we do say some funny
because
shit.
We make fun of shit and we laugh, but it's not, you know, in the realm of true crime. This is a comedy podcast where we try to find levity in the bullshit. But, you know, we're not sitting here. I feel like if you laugh into true crime, you have to call it comedy. Otherwise, people are going to be like, the fuck is happening here?
Agreed.
So my story is called A Mysterious Murder on Skid Row. I think most people know where Skid Row is and what its reputation is. But I'm going to be telling you the story of Peter Ivers, who is an American musician, singer, and songwriter. And he was once a TV personality. So Born Peter Scott Rose on September 20th, 1946. He was a native of Brookline, Massachusetts.
Brooklyn with
the Duncans.
There's a Brooklyn and it's a Brooklyn in Massachusetts. Also, his
Brookline, Massachusetts.
And his natural birth name sounds like a fucking rocker name in itself. I don't know why we changed it.
Crazy. Well, I'll tell you why. You'll find out in just a second. So he moved around a lot in his formative years. He had an ill father who eventually passed away from lung cancer.
Oof.
And his mother, her name was Merle Rose. She remarried a businessman from Boston named Paul Einstein.
Okay.
Isenstein. I'm just going to spell it, and you all can try to say it yourself.
Einstein? I don't know. Well,
Eisenstein. So she didn't actually care for his last name because who the fuck can read it? And she actually, I love this woman. I don't know her at all. But she went to the phone book, that one, closed her eyes, pointed at the name Ivers, and said, that's the name that I'm going to change my name to when we get married. I shit you not. And the guy, Paul, said, you know what? I'll do it too.
That's wild.
So that's how he became Peter Ivers, by taking the name that his mother picked out of a phone book when she remarried. He was small. I think he was only about 4 when she remarried. Okay. So his mother was a free spirit and a doting mother who made sure to expose Peter to a wide variety of music, and it would form who he became as a grown man. So he attended Roxbury Latin School and is an alum of Harvard University, majoring in classical languages, but he chose a career in music. I feel like those two things are not the same.
Not at all, but I'm digging it so far. I'm like, all right.
So he actually started playing the harmonica in a Boston-based band called the Street Choir. And Peter had a knack for like the odd and the curious. He was just like a really eccentric dude. The gifted musician had friends in high places, including Harold Ramis, David Lynch, John Belushi. I don't think I need to tell you who those men are.
Not at all. Not at all.
And at a concert in 1968, blues singer Muddy Waters referred to him as the greatest harp player ever alive. And he's known for trying to like shock people. He was into the shock factor. So he would do weird shit to make people laugh. And one of his most notorious examples of this was he was in an opening slot for Fleetwood Mac at LA's Universal Amphitheater in 1976.
Oh, wow.
And he was doing this to support his own new album, which had come out. But he took the stage clad in nothing but a diaper. And that sort of move might have been like endearing him to like a punk new wave audience a few years later, but under the current circumstances where he did it, it was not warmly received.
Right.
In an interview, Steve Martin said that I think Peter wanted to shock people and be outrageous, which I always found weird because he was so musically skilled. It seemed like he didn't have to. Like he was already amazing and outrageous at what he was doing. So Peter had begun a solo career at the end of the 60s with a release of his album called Night of the Blue Communion, and it's Night K-N-I-G-H-T.
Okay.
And the album presented a strange mix of musical variants and featured Yolandi Bhavan, who was a Sri Lankan actress and singer. And in 1974, he signed a record deal with Warner Brothers through his friend Van Dyke Parks. And 2 years later, his old friend David Lynch asked him to write a song for his new movie, Eraserhead.
Eraserhead. That's a cult classic.
Uh-huh. After writing The Haunting in Heaven, Peter scored Grand Theft Auto for Ron Howard. So he's got his hands in some pretty serious stuff, right? But if I tell you my stories about Peter Ivers, you have no fucking clue where all of that lands, right? It's fascinating to me. No, that's the catch.
I don't have a clue. I just know, excuse me, this is a very eclectic dude, from his education to him deciding to get into music to that level. And again, look at all the people he's hanging out with. Because again, Harold Ramis and all of them, they're all eccentric. Some of them are either very eccentric or some of them are just very intense to the max. James Belushi, I mean, yes, comic legend with such intensity.
Wait, was it John?
I'm sorry, was it John? I always say Jim because Jim is the brother. Yeah, but it's John Belushi.
Yeah, it was John Belushi.
Animal Party, yeah.
Yeah. Which is another comedic genius. So in an interview with the Washington Post, a screenwriter named Josh Frank explained why Peter Ivers was so important to Hollywood. And he said that he was the centerpiece of the wheel that our pop culture history turned around in the 70s and 80s. Even though his output didn't necessarily stick, in one way or another, he helped many of the artists of his time get their success, like David Lynch. He was the connector. He connected people together. And he was also ahead of the curve when it came to video art and music videos and music. Right. Yeah. So one of the articles, I didn't put it in here, but they talk about how his albums weren't really popular when they came out. He couldn't get his footing in his own music career. But
he was good on everybody else's stuff.
Well, he made music. I'm going to get into that in a second for who he made music for. But if you were to listen to his music now, it would be popular. He was just so far ahead of his time. He was born in the wrong decade. So Peter was dating a woman named Lucy Fisher, who was a boss. She became the vice president of production at 20th Century Fox in the late 70s. In the 70s.
I mean, that's a hell of an achievement in itself.
Snaps
like, look at her.
Yep. And they actually moved in together. And some weird phenomenon happened in the 70s and 80s where artists began to leave their usual fancy pants neighborhoods and moved into like big warehouses off of Skid Row. It sounds very like Brooklyn trendy.
That's what I was going to say. It's very Brooklyn Loft-esque.
Exactly right. So Peter and Lucy were some of those artists that followed suit. Ivers remained as much of a creative whirlwind as ever, writing songs and screenplays and making a series of short music films, which ended up foreshadowing the coming of music videos. They didn't exist then. So around this time, Peter and Franny Gold were writing songs for Diana Ross, Phyllis Hyman, and the Pointer Sisters, cementing themselves as lucrative songwriters in the industry. I mean, those are some serious
names.
Heavy
hitters in the 70s.
So Peter was creating music and a huge commercial success from multiple hit records. He seemed to be turning some kind of a corner, leaving a little bit of like this Peter Pan-esque lifestyle behind and finding ways to ride his art into a more grown-up lifestyle. He sold a treatment for a fantasy screenplay called City of Tomorrow to Warner Brothers. And in late 1982, he landed a songwriting contract with ATV music publishers, earning him a steady income. So he was at the height of his career.
Yeah, he was at the peak. Like he was all the way up there.
Yep.
I'm dating this Fox exec. I sold this to Warner Brothers. Like my music's still not a hit yet, but it will get there.
But listen, you're making money in an industry where money's hard to be found.
This is very true.
You know? And that's why it was incredibly shocking when he was found dead on March 3rd, 1983. And his friends and his small fan base and the Hollywood community was shaken to its core.
See, I did not expect any of this. I was waiting to see how he turned out to be a killer or something random, but no, he's the killee. He's the murdered. Oh, shit. I was like, where's this going? I'm like, he's so eclectic and diverse. I was waiting to see what the fuck happened. Because you hit me with a few stories like that in the past where I'm like, oh, these people are like really great for where they're at. And then bam.
You guys should have seen Justin's face when I said that he died.
I was just like, my eyes were popping out of my head right there.
They were. That's exactly what happened. So Harold Ramis's wife, Anne, was actually the first to raise the alarm. She'd been trying to get a hold of her friend for hours, and after her calls to Peter went unanswered, she asked a neighbor to check on him. And it was sort of common knowledge in this warehouse loft scenario that his door was usually unlocked. Right. People, lock your damn doors. There's never like a story you hear where they're like, oh, he went up to the door and it was locked, so everyone was fine. Because it probably happens all the fucking time, so no one talks about it. Lock your goddamn doors.
Lock the doors. Yeah, I don't know why that was. Again, I don't know why that was such a thing back then. Oh yeah, we just trust everyone. The world is safe. No. We're gonna leave these doors unlocked.
Even when I was in high school and college, when I lived with my parents, I didn't even have a key to my house because the fucking door was never locked.
That's crazy. We had every fucking thing locked. Like,
yeah. I literally walk around my house like a psycho every night. If it was up to my husband, you could break into my house in any door or window because he would never lock them. I literally will get up if I go to bed first at like 3 a.m. being like, oh, fucking door's locked.
Yeah.
I'm
locking lock them doors. Shits. I don't need no sort of stranger scenario. What are you doing in my house? Because you were home. No. I don't want any of that happening here.
Yo, when I give you the story that I'm going to have next week, it's like shit my nightmares are made out of.
Oh, no.
Just you wait. I digress. Let me get back to Peter. So the neighbor easily got into the 6th floor apartment because the fucking door was unlocked.
Of course.
Where he found Peter Ivers dead on his bed. He had been attacked with a fucking hammer. And his cause of death would later be confirmed as enormous skull fractures and brain injury.
Jesus. Okay.
I mean, the act of killing someone with a hammer is one, very personal, very up close, very traumatic. Like, there's no coming back from that. You know what I mean?
I don't want to. I almost inadvertently.
You almost said something.
Yeah, I was supposed to be like, you hit the nail on the head because that's one of my normal things. But no,
I know it's okay. Yeah, you're right on the nose. How about we say that?
You're right on the nose. It's a very personal thing.
Intimate
It's a
murder.
Very personal, intimate, and explosive. Whoever did this was fucking angry. If you tell me that, and I'm thinking anger, heartbreak, betrayal of some sort, like something went down to that magnitude where it was just like this very heated moment that was personal.
Right. Yeah. And at the time he was 36.
Damn.
I mean, where that age around, like, God. Wow. I have a lot more to do in my life. Imagine all the things that he could have done in his life.
Exactly.
So, unfortunately, the investigation was completely mishandled from the very start. The crime scene was immediately contaminated by police and Peter's friends, who arrived on the rumors around town that the great Peter Ivers had died. Ooh. The police had no idea what to do next. Lucy Fisher recalled during an LA Times interview that Paul Michael Glasser, who played Starsky in Starsky and Hutch, arrived at the apartment, and the police turned to him and said, "What do we do?" And he said, "I'm a fucking actor. I don't know what you're supposed to do." The neighborhood didn't seem that concerned that someone had been murdered on their block. It was Skid Row, after all. But Peter's audio equipment had been missing from his apartment, which led police to believe that the intruder had broken in and beaten the musician to death in order to steal those items. It was a wooden hammer that they used to kill Peter, and it was left in the apartment. But was completely wiped of fingerprints.
Of course. And I mean, even forensics back then in the 70s, you said it's non-existent. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So the police confirmed early that they had no suspects in the case. And despite detectives questioning Peter's friends, none of them appeared to have anything to do with it. Early on in the investigation, his at the time girlfriend, Lucy Fisher, decided to hire a PI because the police were just fucking this whole thing up. Unfortunately, that investigation yielded similar results. Absolutely nothing. Lucy decided to close the investigation. She said, "I did continue on for close to a year. And after a year, I decided I wasn't going to open that door anymore. The door to that room, because that room was a bad room."
Right.
She was like, I don't want to even know at this point. Like, we've gone this far. Do I want to know exactly what happened? Everybody handles things differently, but I get where she's coming from.
I get where she's coming from, yeah.
So the police may have not had any suspects because they were crap, but Peter's friends had their suspicions, and there were lots of theories, let's say. So back in the early 80s, Peter was actually the host of an experimental music TV show called New Wave Theater. Have you ever heard of this?
No, actually.
Okay. So it was a show that was broadcast locally in LA on UHF channel 18, and it was eventually picked up by the USA Network.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So the program was a music-based TV show that included comedy and guest appearances. It gives me like TRL vibes,
Okay.
you know, where over the years, the show had some big bands appear on it, including Dead Kennedys, Bad Religion, Black Flag, the Circle Jerks. I mean, these are huge, huge bands for their time. And the brain behind the show was a man named Dave Jove. And he was a producer, an alleged acid dealer to the Rolling Stones. I don't know how you get to like that moniker upon your name.
That's actually hysterical. Now, my question is, was he a producer first, or was he dealing acid and because everybody was on the acid, they made him producer?
I don't know, honestly. So his career had begun to skyrocket because of the New Wave Theater and Peter Ivers. I mean, I don't have it in here, but Peter Ivers was this, I mean, eccentric dude, right? So we've already got that image in your head, but he would wear like spangled jackets and feather boas, and he was just this enormous personality as the host of this show. And a man named Ed, I'm going to butcher his name, Ochs, Och. He was one of the writers for the show. Okay. And he's in one of the interviews I read, he was talking about how like he would literally be like sitting at a typewriter, like typing out the copy, and he would just hand it to him and Peter ran with it. And he was amazing. He was everything Carson Daly wasn't. He had so much personality and he was so interesting and he was funny and entertaining and he had all these famous friends. You know, he made the show. He made this show. But by 1983, he kind of decided that he had had enough of the New Wave Theater. Okay. And that writer was interviewed, said Peter tired of the role. He gave it everything he had, and he was ready to pack it in and move on. But David Jove, who was by all accounts a loose cannon, didn't really want to do that.
Of course not. Of course not.
And that landed him on, everyone's suspect list, except the police.
Except the police. Wow. You did say they were fucking up. I mean, clearly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So David Jove passed away in 2004. And Peter Ivers' murder remains unsolved to this day.
Wow. No leads. No nothing.
Nothing.
The fuck.
According to Peter's friends, Jove was a violent drug abuser, and he didn't want Peter to leave the show due to his recent musical success. And his furious outbursts had become vicious, and Peter's friends began to note that the producer had a pretty bad temper. So he died, and Peter's case was all but forgotten.
But he never said anything in all these decades. He just kept saying it wasn't me. It wasn't me. He, in his old age, he didn't start to slip and say anything.
Nope.
Fuck.
Nothing. And for a brief time, even Harold Ramis was under suspicion for his murder.
I can't see Harold Ramis doing anything like that. Yeah.
But there were allegations that Peter Ivers was having an affair with his wife.
Oh.
And his wife is the one who is trying to call him. So who knows? I'm not going to give you anything that's going to have any conclusion to this. This is just all theories. There is no fucking conclusion to this story, and I bet you there never will be.
This is fucking wild. Well, is Harold? I know Harold Ramis passed some time ago. Is his wife still alive?
I don't know.
Okay, because I was like, if she's still alive, maybe if that type of theory was true, maybe on her deathbed she'll start to talk about it. But okay, this is crazy.
So those are two theories. There's one more. So theory one is that David Jove killed him or had him killed because he didn't want him to leave the show. But I mean, in all reality, You lost him anyway.
You lost him anyway. You took his life.
Really make
you
a lot
stifled...
of sense unless he did it himself and he was angry and it was like a heat of passion thing.
Again, a hammer is very personal.
It sure is. I don't see Harold Ramis walking into fucking Peter Ivers' house and smashing his head in with a hammer. I just don't.
I don't see it either.
What the fuck? What do I know? So in 2006, the case was reviewed again. And according to a detective in the homicide unit, they came up with a suspect. They said the suspect was a rooftop burglar who had fallen off the roof as being the most likely suspect. They say, the detective was quoted, "I know there's a lot of people that think there's other people involved, but it doesn't appear that way. You would like to have better answers, but I don't think there ever will be. I think this is just it."
I think they were paid off by, our acid dealer a long time ago.
It's just like a weird way to say.
Yeah, that's a weird way. They're like, yeah, we know you want answers. We don't care. Goodbye.
This is it.
You guys didn't have a single lead for 40 fucking years, and this is what you come up with all of a sudden? Okay.
Well, dude, come on. It's the LAPD, right? So the LAPD is known for being corrupt. Did you see any of the recent... Have you ever heard of Nikita Dragon?
Yes, I saw that. They threw her
So Nikita Dragon is a transgender woman, and they put her in the men's fucking
I saw
jailhouse.
that. I saw that.
Just this weekend. It's fucking heinous,
That
man.
is wild. Also on that, which I found, I know we're segueing, but yeah, they threw her,
Whatever,
they threw her in there, but her bail was like dirt cheap. She did not make bail, but I was going in my head like she's probably intentionally not making bail because she's banking on something happening in this jail cell.
Oh, she's gonna sue the fuck out of LAPD. Yeah, I mean, it's nuts.
Well, we've talked about LAPD several times, and again, even my Mel Gibson story. I mean, me, the person who arrested Mel Gibson, we saw the consequences of that. What happened to him and how the LAPD did him.
So yeah, that's all they came up with. They were like, "Hey, this guy had fallen off a roof. He was a robber. He probably did it." They have no proof. They never recovered his recording equipment. They never had any prints or any real substantial leads. This is kind of, to me, it feels like a shot in the fucking dark. They're just looking to tie up loose ends.
To me, it sounds like they're just straight up giving you this right now because they know we live in a world of forensics and everything else where they're like, let's just say we wrap this up now so no one looks into it. We don't want that national coverage on it. We don't want that.
Jesus. So that's it. It's a cold case. Lucy Fisher believes that it is a simple answer. She quoted saying, "I do think it's possible that it was somebody crazy that he knew, but I think it's also possible that it was a passerby who heard music coming out of there and knew that there was stuff up there they could take. Equipment was stolen and the door was not locked. Peter could do everything except lock a door, basically." Is what she was quoted saying. So Peter Ivers' murder has never been solved and is now a cold case that resides in the LAPD's filing system. If he were alive today, he would be 76 years old. The musician and the New Wave Theater was the preamble to MTV and became an inspiration for bands across the world. His girlfriend Lucy played a big part in keeping Peter's voice and name alive over the years. Not long after his death in 1983, she founded the Peter Ivers Visiting Artist Scholarship at the university, Harvard University. So that's still up and running to this day. And that's the only thing that's really left of his legacy because people don't know how much he had his hand in all of these things.
That's wild. Yeah. I had no clue. Oh my goodness. You guys got to let us know.
Spotify picked up one of his albums called Terminal Love. And they were like, if you listen to this now, it's awesome. So maybe go on Spotify and listen to that album. Yeah. So that is the story of the mysterious death of Peter Ivers, the murder on Skid Row.
Damn, it's a sad story. Sad that it's open. It's
sad,
cold case. You guys gotta, for those of you listening, you gotta let us know what your theory is on it. Who you think did it, or
1, 2, or 3.
Yeah, 1, 2, or 3. Do you agree it's probably just a random traveler, or do you agree it's someone else? Think? I personally think it's that producer. Hammer's too personal. But, again, you're living on Skid Row. It was the 70s. There have been, it's been known for just people that are not necessarily mentally stable to just walk up in a house and kill some people. Some stories on our potential list, like on my side that I have, some of those stories go like that, where we had actors on top of the world or actresses on top of the world, and they were just taken out just because someone decided to walk into their house or break into their house. And
yeah, I land on the side of it's probably someone who was, needing money for drugs or experiencing homelessness or whatever the scenario is. And they saw an opportunity and they took it. It just happened to fucking be Peter Ivers.
Yeah.
It wasn't like it was some kind of secret that there were people with money living in these warehouse lofts. But
that's the thing.
I think that's probably it. But it's fucking crazy that no one ever found him.
You said they found him on his bed, though, right?
Yeah.
So that's my thing. Like, was he sleeping? This person broke in right away, hammered him in the head? Or was it someone he knew and he was still just laying in the bed talking to them, and then was a whack, whack, whack? And then I'm just going to take the shit to make it look like someone wanted to steal his equipment.
Sure.
I don't know.
That wouldn't be the first conspiracy,
That's wild.
When you look back at the history of the creative arts, it takes a lot of darkness to create the light the arts bring to the world.
Thanks for joining us this week. And if you enjoyed our conversation, please subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and go over to Apple Podcasts to rate and review.
Please check out our sources listed in the episode notes. They're amazing.
And you can find us on Facebook and Instagram and all of the social platforms at Crime of the Arts Podcast.
We're looking forward to having you back next week. Until next time, peace out, everybody.
Peace out, everybody.